Today I'm going to walk you through setting up your QNAP NAS. G'day, I'm Kathy. This is where I talk about all my pet projects. What I'm going to do in today's video is explain the physical process of setting up your NAS and also the different options for connecting your NAS to the internet and what all the different settings mean and why you should pick certain settings over others to improve performance of your NAS. Now I need to say at the beginning that I can't show you the full initial setup process simply because my NASs have already been set up and I can't reinitialize them without losing all my data. If you're looking for a video that shows you step by step exactly what you need to do to set up your NAS, then I will link a video in my description box below by NAS Compares. It's a YouTube channel set up by somebody who deals with NASs all the time, and he is extremely knowledgeable. In fact, that's where I got most of my information regarding NASs. To start off with, you get your NAS, you unbox it of course, and what you normally find, and of course it will depend on the model, but generally speaking, you'll find the NAS. There'll also be an Ethernet cable, which I'll insert a picture here so you can see what they look like, and also the power cable. Now, in addition to the NAS, you should have at least one hard drive. The first step is to install the hard drives into the bays that come with the NAS. Now, if you can see behind me, these are my two NASs, and they both have different systems for installing your hard drives. I know that when I first got my NASs, I had no idea which end went where, and I found it very useful to see a video on that. Now I'm going to show you how you remove the bays, and I'll also show you how you actually install the hard drive into the bays. This is my QNAP TS 453BE. This one has a cover. Not all QNAPs NASs do, so we'll take that. Now, in order to take out the hard drives, you press down on this. I usually need two hands, but not everyone will. And then you slide out the hard drive. So when you pull out these trays from your NAS, in order to insert the hard drives, you need to take off these side clips. I'm always a bit wary about breaking them. And you get your hard drive. You see these connectors here? These have to go into the open section of the tray. So in order to insert the hard drive, it just goes like that. And you put the clips back on, and they just click into place like that. So that's a hard drive inserted into the tray. So when we want to put the hard drive back in, see the connectors? Basically slides right in, and then it'll click into place. And you can check it because I can't pull it out now. And because this one has a cover, it just slides back in like that. Now this is my QNAP TS 451 Plus. This one has a different system for removing hard drives. So the way you do that is by that. Now these bays need to be screwed into place. So it's quite different to the other one. The connectors are on the open end, not where the clip is. In order to put the bay back in, that's it. So now you've installed your hard drive. The next thing is to connect the Ethernet cable to the back of the NAS itself. It'll click into place. The other end of the Ethernet cable will need to connect directly to your modem. I'll show you what that looks like. And the third thing that you need to connect is obviously the power cable. Now there are three methods that you can connect your NAS to your modem and therefore your network, both the internet and your home network. Now, connecting a device with an Ethernet cable is the best way. It will provide you with the fastest connections and the most reliability. But if, for example, you're not able to connect your NAS to your modem directly, then there is also the option of using Wi-Fi. Now, a lot of NAS models don't come with Wi-Fi, but there are options of purchasing Wi-Fi cards which you can install in the NAS and then connect your NAS to your network wirelessly. But that can be a bit fiddly. Now, I know that wireless connections have improved dramatically over the last few years, but sometimes you can experience dropouts, and I don't find them always as reliable as they could be. The third option is using what is called Power over Ethernet. I actually use these at home. So what is Power over Ethernet? They come in a set of a minimum of 2. They're adapters which you plug into power sockets. The first one must be plugged in close to your modem or router, and then you plug in an Ethernet cable into the Power over Ethernet adapter, and the other end will be plugged in directly to your modem or router. Once that's plugged in, you can plug in one of the other adapters anywhere that has a power socket. Then you plug in the Ethernet cable into the Power over Ethernet adapter, and the other end you can plug into your laptop, computer, or any device that you want to give internet access or home network access. So they're extremely useful, like in situations where you want to connect a device but it doesn't have wireless capability. For example, I have an old Blu-ray player that has not got Wi-Fi, but it does have an Ethernet port. Another example, I have a third NAS in my garage, so I actually use Power over Ethernet. The way they work is the Power over Ethernet adapters use the electrical wiring in your home to connect to your home network and the internet. I do need to point out that if you have old electrical wiring, they may not be as reliable or as useful. Power over Ethernet is not as fast as an Ethernet cable connection from one device to the modem, but I do believe it is slightly faster than Wi-Fi, and I find it a lot more reliable. I don't experience any dropouts with Power over Ethernet. So once you've got your NAS up and running, as in connected and powered on, the next step is to connect to the software and connect to the NAS directly. In order to do that, you need to download Qfinder Pro, which is a program that QNAP brings out. They have different versions for Mac, Windows, and Linux users. Now, Qfinder Pro only works on a computer or a laptop, and once you've installed it and started it up, as long as that computer or laptop is on the same network as well as your NAS, and most of us only have one network at home, then Qfinder Pro should be able to find your NAS immediately. And here I will show you how that works. Now, in my Qfinder Pro, as I said, I have 3 NASes, and you can see that they're all lined up here. Now, if this is the first time you are starting up your NAS, it will walk you through the setup procedure. So Qfinder Pro helps you locate the NAS on your network. Every device, every computer, tablet, phone, modem are all given a unique identifier called an IP address, Internet Protocol address, so that they can connect and talk to each other over networks, both on the internet and for home networks. An IP address is a unique set of numbers assigned to every device. Here I'll show you Qfinder Pro again with my 3 NASes, and you will see that each one has a different IP address or set of numbers. When you first set up your NAS, it will give you the option of assigning either a dynamic IP address or a static IP address. A dynamic IP address means that the unique set of numbers can sometimes change if you power off your NAS or you have a power outage or things like that. Our internet service providers usually give us a dynamic IP address when we access the internet. With your NAS, you do not have to use a dynamic IP address, and I actually recommend that you use a static IP address. A static IP address means that the set of numbers is permanently assigned to that particular device, in this instance, your NAS. So why is it better to have a static IP address? Mainly because if you set up any other devices to access your NAS, in order for that other device to communicate with your NAS, it needs to know its IP address. And if you use dynamic IP addresses with your NAS, then those sets of numbers do change, and then your other devices will not be able to find it unless you know what the new set of numbers are. It can get really frustrating if every time you switch off your NAS and you're then given a new IP address, you then have to go onto your phone or other devices and reset it up because the IP address is new. With a static IP address, you don't need to worry. Those sets of numbers don't change, and then your other devices will be able to connect to it without you having to go in and change the settings on it. If I haven't explained this well enough, please feel free to ask me any questions in the comments and I'll answer as best I can. When you first set up a NAS, it will ask you to initialize every hard drive. There are several methods for initializing your hard drives. You'll hear the term RAID, which is redundant array of independent disks. There's also single volume disks, and the third one is VJBOD. I'm not even sure what it is actually. So RAID works by combining multiple disks into one or more units. RAID is usually recommended for businesses who need to be able to access their files at all time and can't afford to lose time if a hard drive fails. Now RAID, I need to make clear, RAID is not a backup solution. If you have a hard drive failure on one of the disks, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will still recover your files. Now I'll give you an example why I don't like RAID. RAID 1, which is one of the different RAIDs that are available, uses 2 disks. Say they total 16 terabytes in all, 8 terabytes on each hard drive. The way RAID 1 works, you can only use up to 8 terabytes of storage capacity, and then all the data is mirrored on the other hard drive. So instead of getting 16 terabytes of storage capacity, you end up with 8 terabytes. There are other RAIDs where you don't lose as much as 50% storage capacity. You might only lose 30%, but I wasn't willing to lose even that much. And I did a lot of reading and research about whether I should have a RAID. But from what I read, it didn't seem to be necessary for home use. What is necessary, and what I strongly recommend, is that you back up all your irreplaceable files like photos, documents, and things like that. I back up all my files except for my media files, which I can replace. So whilst no one wants to lose hard drives and have to replace the files, the fact is, because I own the physical discs, all the Blu-rays and DVDs, etc., I can replace them. I can recopy them and put them back on the NAS. And I made the decision that I didn't want to lose half of the storage capacity on my hard drives in order to have a RAID in place. If you're not sure whether you should use a RAID, then I strongly recommend that you do your own research, read up on the different RAIDs that are available and whether it's necessary in your situation. Since I don't use RAID, when I initialize a new hard drive, I do so as a single volume disk. So now I'm going to take it to my computer and show you the QTS user interface. This is QNAP Qfinder Pro. If I want to log into my NASs, I can do it through here, or I can simply go to the web browser. In order to log in, you put in your username and your password, and then you log in. Now this is what the user interface looks like. If you go into the top left corner, main menu, it'll list all the system applications and all the other file applications that you can add. To start off with, if you're going to be initializing a hard drive, you will go into storage and snapshots. If you want to see an overview, I will show you the different disks. I have 4 disks in this NAS. And in order to initialize a hard drive, you go into storage snapshots, create a new storage pool, a new volume, which is what I use, single disk volumes. And if you ever need to come back here to manage, say, to rename a hard drive or anything like that, you go up here where it says manage. I can check the file system. You can rename the volumes, the individual hard drives here, and you can also set a threshold. What the alert threshold is the maximum you want your hard drive to reach. The default is 80%. I changed it to 95%. And when my hard drive reaches that threshold, I will get a notification that I'm at that limit. Now, it will take some time to initialize the hard drive. Once it's been set up, you can then start adding shared folders. Shared folders are where you will store the files on your NAS. There are 2 ways. You can do it either through the file station or you can do it through the control panel. I'm going to show you both ways. So once you're in your file station, in order to create a shared folder, you can do so up here. See that little plus sign? It'll say you can create a folder or a shared folder. We are going to create a shared folder. I'm going to call it test 1. You can decide here on the disk volume as to which hard drive you will put it on. You can also configure access for users. So I can go into edit. I have several users in my account and I can give access to whoever I want. So we're going to create it. And now you can see that there is the folder. I actually don't like having all my files where the recycle bin is. So what I do is I will create just a regular folder. We'll call it testing. You can call it anything you like. And then I put all my files in that folder. So the actual shared folder is called test 1. And now if we go into the control panel, you have your users, you also have shared folders. If you have a look here, test 1 has come up. I can also modify the settings for each shared folder here. I don't need to do that in the file station. You can also create the shared folder here. As you can see under create, I can go into edit properties. I can say hide the network drive, enable recycle bin. I can also edit shared folder permissions. I can add another user. Say, for example, we're going to give read-only access to my user called TV. The other thing I wanted to talk about is users. This is where you can create any users. You can create multiple users. You can also create user groups. For example, say if you have several kids and you want those kids only to have access to certain files, you can create a user group, say called family. You can see who is in that group. I've put 2 people called Chris and Dimmy in my family group. If you have young kids and you don't want them to have access to every single file, you can say, I'm only going to give them access to certain folders. and I'm going to deny them access to certain other folders. Now I'm going to show you how to map shared folders on your NAS to your computer. Okay, so we're back in Qfinder Pro. If you go up the top where it says Tools, you'll see Map Network Drive. We want to map Test 1. I'll show you this window. You can decide which letter to assign to Test 1. We're going to use H and we're going to finish. Now this is my Windows Explorer. As you can see, I have quite a few shared folders mapped, and there is Test 1. As you remember, that's our testing folder. To copy something, I can just drag it straight into this folder and it will now be on my NAS. If we go into File Station, we open Testing. There's the file that I just copied. Well, that's all I'm going to cover in this video. In the next video, I'm going to cover things like setting up your tablet and phone to access the files from your NAS. And I'll go through a few more advanced options. And if anyone wants me to cover a particular topic, please let me know down in the comments and I'll definitely cover it if I can. Also, if you have any questions, again, put it down in the comments. I'll answer as best I can. Well, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content from me, you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care guys. Bye.